AITA for exposing my husband's affair at his company's annual charity gala and ruining his career? My husband and I were together for 10 years, married for 7. We had a seemingly perfect life. Big house in a nice neighborhood, 2 cars, vacations. I worked as a freelance graphic designer, which allowed me flexibility, and he was climbing the corporate ladder at a major financial firm. Everyone thought we were the golden couple. I realize now that appearances can be deceiving. Underneath the surface, our marriage was crumbling. We had stopped communicating effectively. We were living separate lives under the same roof. I was focused on my work and my hobbies, and he was engrossed in his career. We had drifted apart, and I hadn't even noticed. I assumed everything was fine because we never argued. I thought that a lack of conflict meant we were happy. I was wrong. I should have seen the signs. He was distant and preoccupied. He worked late more often. He was less affectionate. I dismissed it as stress from his job. I told myself that he was just tired. I didn't want to believe that something was wrong. I should have asked questions. I should have pushed him to open up, but I didn't. And now, I am paying the price. Then, I found out he was having an affair. Not just some one-night stand, but a full-blown, months-long affair with his coworker, a young woman named Sarah. I discovered it accidentally. He left his laptop open one night, and a message popped up from her. It was explicit. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I spent the next few weeks in a fog, trying to figure out what to do. I considered divorce, confronting him, or even just pretending I didn't know. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. He had not only betrayed me but also made me look like a fool in front of everyone we knew. He was flaunting this affair, lying to my face every day, and acting like nothing was wrong. I deserved more than that. I decided I wanted him to experience the same humiliation and pain he had caused me. I spent days planning my next move. I considered several options, ranging from simply leaving him to exposing his affair to his family. Leaving felt too easy, though. He would get away with what he did. Telling his family might cause drama, but it would not publicly damage his reputation. I wanted something that would hit him where it hurt the most, his career and his pride. That is when the idea came to me. I knew about an upcoming event he had been diligently working on. He spoke about it constantly. He stressed over every detail, from the venue to the guest list. He wanted it to be perfect. He wanted to impress his boss and climb the corporate ladder. I realized I could use this event to my advantage. I could turn his moment of triumph into his greatest embarrassment. I just needed to figure out the specifics. His company was hosting its annual charity gala, a huge event for networking and fundraising. It was black tie, held at a fancy hotel, and attended by all the bigwigs in the industry. My husband was on the planning committee, and he was so excited about it. He saw it as a major opportunity to impress his superiors and further his career. I knew this was the perfect stage for my revenge. I spent weeks meticulously planning everything. First, I hired a private investigator. I needed concrete proof of the affair, something undeniable. The investigator provided me with photos and videos of my husband and Sarah together, entering her apartment, kissing in restaurants, and generally acting like a couple. It was disgusting, but it was exactly what I needed. Seeing the evidence compiled like that made me feel sick. I already suspected what was happening, but the proof was different. It was so blatant and disrespectful. He acted like I would never find out. I felt anger rise in me, but I pushed it down. I had to stay focused. I needed to execute my plan perfectly. Showing any emotion prematurely would ruin everything. The goal was to expose him and Sarah in a way that would cause maximum damage to his reputation. I wanted him to feel the same humiliation and betrayal that I felt. After finishing the presentation, I scheduled a meeting with my husband and several of his colleagues. I made sure to include his boss and a few other senior members of the company. I sent out the invitations with a vague subject line, something about an important company update. I knew he would be curious and wouldn't suspect a thing. The meeting was set for a Monday morning, giving me the entire weekend to prepare myself. I spent those 2 days going over the presentation again and again, making sure every detail was perfect and every piece of evidence was irrefutable. Next, I created a digital presentation. I used the photos and videos from the investigator, along with screenshots of their text messages and emails. I made it as clear and concise as possible, leaving no room for doubt about the nature of their relationship. I even included a few embarrassing details I had gleaned from his emails, things that would humiliate him in front of his colleagues. The night of the gala arrived, and I put on my most stunning dress, a red gown that showed off my figure. I wanted to look confident and powerful, not like a scorned wife. I arrived at the hotel early and discreetly set up a laptop and projector in a small conference room adjacent to the main ballroom. I made sure the projector was aimed at a large screen that could be easily seen from the ballroom. I loaded the presentation onto the laptop and tested it one last time. I checked the audio to ensure it worked correctly. I needed to be certain that everything would run smoothly. I had worked on this for weeks and I could not afford any technical issues ruining my plans. I took a few deep breaths and tried to calm my nerves. Despite my anger, I felt nervous about confronting him publicly. I knew this would change everything, and I hoped I was doing the right thing. I made my way into the ballroom and surveyed the scene. People dressed in expensive suits and gowns filled the room, laughing and drinking. The band began to play music, and couples started to dance. I saw my husband talking to a group of people near the bar, his hand resting on a woman's back. The sight made my blood boil. I reminded myself to stay focused and stick to the plan. It was almost time. As guests began to arrive, I mingled and made small talk, acting like everything was normal. My husband greeted me with a kiss, completely oblivious to what I had planned. He introduced me to some of his colleagues, smiling and acting like the proud husband. I wanted to slap him across the face. When the speeches began, I knew it was time. My husband was scheduled to give a short presentation about the company's charitable contributions. As he walked up to the podium, I slipped into the conference room and started my presentation. I prepared this presentation for months. I knew exactly what I needed to do and how to do it. I gathered all the evidence of my husband's affair with his assistant. I included pictures, text messages, and even a video I secretly recorded of them together at a restaurant. It was all meticulously organized and timed to coincide with his moment of recognition. I made sure to get access to both conference rooms beforehand to rig the systems. I uploaded my file onto the main server earlier in the week, using a fake name and an anonymous email address. I scheduled it to play on the main screen at the exact time my husband was due to speak. I am a systems engineer. This was pretty easy to do. I knew it would be a public and humiliating way to reveal the truth, but I felt it was the only way to get my point across. He had been lying to me for months, and I was tired of it. I wanted everyone to know the real him. The screen in the ballroom flickered, and my presentation replaced the company logo. A gasp went through the crowd. My husband froze, his face turning white. He tried to regain control, but it was too late. The photos and videos played out for everyone to see. I watched from the conference room as the room erupted in chaos. People whispered, pointed, and stared. My husband stood on the stage, paralyzed with shame. I could see his boss, the CEO of the company, looking at him with disgust. Sarah, who was also in attendance, burst into tears and ran out of the room. I didn't know what was happening at first. Then I saw my slides on the screen. They showed text messages between my husband and Sarah, and photos of them together. I had planned this for months, meticulously collecting evidence and preparing the presentation. I wanted everyone to know what he had done, and I wanted him to suffer the consequences. I had access to company files, which helped me uncover the extent of the affair. I also knew how to use the presentation software, so it was easy to upload my own material. I made sure that the presentation was scheduled for a time when the maximum number of people would be present. My goal was complete exposure, and I achieved it. The presentation continued, highlighting the details of the affair. I made sure to include the dates and times, showing how he had lied to me and neglected his responsibilities at home. I even added a few slides about his performance at work, implying that he had been distracted by the affair and not fully focused on his job. By the time the presentation ended, the room was in complete disarray. People were talking loudly, speculating about what would happen next. My husband finally managed to stumble off the stage and push his way through the crowd. I knew he was looking for me, but I made sure to stay hidden. I watched him scan the room, his face a mask of panic. He spotted a few colleagues and tried to talk to them, but they quickly turned away. I felt a pang of guilt, but I pushed it down. He deserved this. All those years of lies and betrayal culminated in this moment. I slipped out a side door, unseen. It felt surreal walking out into the normal world after the chaos inside. The sun was shining, and people were going about their day as if nothing had happened. I wondered if anyone would believe what went on in that conference room. I flagged down a taxi and gave the driver my address. I needed to get away from the city and think about what to do next. I left the hotel and went home, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me felt satisfied, knowing that I had exposed him and ruined his reputation. But another part of me felt sad and empty. I had destroyed our life together, even though he had destroyed it first. The next day, I received a call from my husband's company. He had been fired. They cited a violation of the company's code of conduct, stating that his affair had created a hostile work environment. I wasn't surprised. I knew that his actions would have consequences. I felt a strange mix of emotions when I learned about the firing. Part of me felt vindicated, like he was finally facing some real repercussions. Another part felt uneasy. I didn't want him to lose his job, even though he deserved it. It felt like things were spiraling out of control, and I had unintentionally contributed to the chaos. I also knew that the loss of income would affect us both, regardless of what he had done. I began to wonder if I had gone too far by sending that email. I had wanted him to feel the same pain I felt, but now the situation was more complex and the fallout was spreading wider than I anticipated. When he arrived home, the atmosphere was thick with tension. I braced myself for a fight. I expected anger and accusations, but his quiet demeanor caught me off guard. I saw a vulnerability in him that I hadn't seen in a long time. His questions stung. I hadn't considered it humiliation. I had seen it as exposure. I wanted everyone to know the truth, but hearing him frame it that way made me question my motives again. I didn't have a good answer for him. I simply told him I was hurt and angry, and I wanted him to understand the depth of my pain. He came home later that day, looking defeated. He didn't yell or scream. He just sat on the couch and stared at the floor. He asked me why I had done it, why I had humiliated him in such a public way. I told him that he deserved it. I said that he had betrayed me and disrespected our marriage. I said that he had made me feel worthless, and I wanted him to feel the same way. I felt angry and wanted him to understand my pain. I told him I did not think I could ever trust him again. I told him that I needed time to process things and figure out what I wanted. I told him that I was not sure if we could recover from this. I said that I did not know if I even wanted to. He sat there quietly for a long time. Then, he asked if there was anything he could do to fix it. He asked if we could go to counseling or try to work things out. He said he would do anything to make it right, but I just stared at him. I did not know what to say. He started to cry. He said he was sorry, that he had made a mistake. He begged me to forgive him, to give him another chance. I told him it was too late. I said that I could never trust him again, that the damage was irreparable. I told him to pack his bags and leave. I think he knew I was serious. He didn't argue or try to convince me otherwise. He just stood there for a minute, looking down at the floor. Then, he quietly went upstairs. I heard him moving around for a while, presumably packing. I stayed downstairs, sitting on the couch and staring blankly at the television. I didn't turn it on. I just wanted him gone. I felt numb, like I was watching a movie and not actually living my life. I didn't feel any anger or sadness, just emptiness. I suppose the anger would come later. I had a long night ahead of me. The next morning I called a lawyer. I needed to protect myself and figure out what my next steps were. I explained the situation, and she advised me to file for divorce as soon as possible. She said she would handle all the paperwork and make sure I got what I deserved. I appreciated her directness and confidence. I needed someone like that on my side. I spent the next few weeks gathering documents and preparing for the legal battle ahead. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to get through it. I knew I deserved better than what I had. He left that night, and I haven't seen him since. I filed for divorce, and it was finalized a few months later. I got the house, the cars, and a significant portion of his savings. I didn't do it for the money, but it was nice to know that I was financially secure. In the aftermath, I faced mixed reactions from our friends and family. Some people supported me, saying that I had done what any wronged woman would do. Others criticized me, saying that I had gone too far and ruined his life. I don't regret what I did. He made his choices, and I made mine. I believe that he deserved the consequences of his actions. He hurt me deeply, and I retaliated in the best way I knew how. Now, I'm single and living on my own. I'm focusing on my career and trying to rebuild my life. It hasn't been easy, but I'm determined to move forward. Some people say that revenge is a dish best served cold. I agree, and I made sure to serve it ice cold, right in front of everyone he knew. But now I'm wondering, did I go too far? Should I have just divorced him and moved on? Was it wrong to publicly humiliate him and ruin his career?